Today's daf is daf Samach Beis. We're going to begin Bishlema. Zad Gemara Bishlema B'chanim Gamliel. Mela according to B'shem Gamliel Handik. See, this is what the pasuk says. Leishachav Ish Eitzach v'Mesatisa Tumas Tachas Isha Chenaki says by a seif, no man has lain with you, and if you have not gone aside to uncleanliness, being under your husband, you shall be free. That's specifying the negative. According to a mayor, the Chayra who needs a Tanai Kafel says that Chinchi. Should you choke? According to the opinion of Rameir, the pasuk should have clarified the other side of the Kidushin. Hinoki ksiv. Hinoki without the word, without the yud, which is mashma that the word should be interpreted in two ways. Hinoki and hinoki. Bishlam Rameir handiksiv hinoki. The Rameir lamali. He says it's shachasakat amina imlay shachavish hinoki v'mshachav hinoki v'lechinchi. Elay surabama. So you would think that if no man has lain with you, you shall be free, and if he hasn't lain with you, you should neither be free nor choke. So it's only an isser. According to him, it's regard to purifying with the pure waters. So it says, you shall purify himself on the third day and the seventh day, and he shall be pure. But if he's not pure for himself. Why do I need double? You would think the mitzvah of sprinkling the water must be performed on the third and the seventh day. But if he performed it on one of them alone, it's considered performed, and he's purified after the fact. I don't say that. Next thing, the Gemara asks about the pasuk that says, and the pure shall sprinkle on the impure on the third day and on the seventh day. Why do I need this repetition? I already said, I would say that the third day excludes the second day. You cannot receive a sprinkling on the water of the purification on the third day. And Shvi Lamuti Shishi, Kamai made Taira. And the seventh excludes the sixth day because he thereby decrees the days of purity before sprinkling. But if you perform the sprinkling on the third or the eighth day, which cases he increases in Tara, you would say that it's proper. That we don't say. On the seventh he shall purify himself. Why? It's enough. I don't say that. Person is Mekadosh woman and says, I was Mekadosh, I thought she was a daughter of a Kohen, and it turned out she was a Levi. If he claims that the daughter of a Levi and she's actually a Kohen, or if he claims that I thought she was poor and she's wealthy and she's poor in all these cases, Mekadosh, because she did not mislead him, and no, tonight was stated with regards to these matters. If a person says to a woman, you are Mekadosh to me after I convert, or after you convert, after I am free, or after you are free. After your husband dies, or after your sister dies, after your oven performs chalitza, and Mekadesh, just since you cannot be Mekadesh at the present time, so it's ineffective. If a person says to a woman, if your wife gives birth to a female child, she's Mekadesh to me, and Mekadesh. But if he said that when the wife of the other man was pregnant and the fetus was at the time pregnant is known, so then Dvarav Kayamim, his statement is upheld, and therefore if she gave birth to a child, Mekudeshes. Tanah Hashem learned in the Mishnah. In Terim Natalosh on the Chuber, person cannot separate truma from produce that has been detached from the ground to render produce that is attached to the ground. And if he does, it's not true. If a person says the detached produce of this garden bed should be truma for the detached produce of the garden bed, or the attached produce of the garden bed should be truma for the detached produce of the garden bed. Now, he said that when they will be detached and the produce was detached, so what's the halacha? He says anything in one's power to perform is not considered lacking in actions, since he could theoretically detach the produce at the moment truma can be separated from it. Granted, in all these, it's not in his power to bring about these situations when he will be able to be Mekadesher. But in the case of a convert, the matter in his power is he could convert if he chooses. According to the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, any action that could be potentially be performed is considered as thought. It hasn't been actually performed. So the Gemara responds, the ger is also in a sense. The ger requires the presence of 3 yidden for his conversion. My time, what's the reason for this? Mishpat ksibe kadin. It's written, you shall have one manner, law, which indicates that the conversion is considered a judgment that requires 3 judges. And if he requires 3 judges, who says that those 3 will be available for him? Since he cannot convert at the time of his choosing, it's not considered within his power. If a person says, gives a pruta to his Kanani maidservant and says, you are hereby Mekudeshes to me after I freed you, you too will say that it is Mekudeshes because he has the power to free her. The Kanani maidservant initially has the legal status of an animal. She's not subject to Mekudeshes. Whereas now she has an independent mind. Once she has been free, she has the status of a yid, and it's not considered the same person at all. The attempted Kidushin is certainly considered lacking in action. And he said granted, he has the power to divorce her, he has the power to be Mekadesher. It's not in his power to affect the Kiddushin, as once she has divorced him, the matter is no longer exclusively dependent on him. So the we can answer a question. A person who gives 2 prutas to a woman, one who says to her, be Mekadeshes to me today, and with the other one says, be Mekadeshes to me after I divorce you. What is the status after a divorce? So he says, Gemara says, no. Perhaps in that situation, just as the Kidushin is effective now, it's also effective afterwards. Since she is currently under her own authority and agrees to Mekadesh herself to him, it's possible that she can now consent to the Kidushin that will take effect at that time. And which means one may not detach Truma from the detached for the detached. And if he separated Truma, if a person says the detached produce of this garden bed will be the truma for the detached produce of this garden bed, or the detached produce for this garden bed will be the truma of the detached produce of this garden bed when in other words, the attached produce will reach 1/3 of the gross, and they are detached, although at the time they had not been ripened, which means that the obligation of the trumas did not apply to them. He said this only in regards to fodder produce, which has grown stalks, even if it's not yet ripe. With regards to an agam, my time, my mashal hay agam lishna de betzolahu. From where do we know that this word agam is a term growth? It's bowed down his head as a agman, like a soft dropping plant. If a person says, if your wife gives birth to a female, she's mekadeshes to me. If she's not engaged, pregnant, if it's Ram, but it's referring to a case where her fetus was already noticeable. And if it's Rabbi Yosef, even if the fetus is not noticeable. You could said this only in regards to a fodder of non-irrigated field, which is not watered. But in regards to fodder of an irrigated field layer. Even fodder of an irrigated field. So the Bryce is in accordance with the opinion of both Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef, as even Rabbi Yosef agrees that Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov was referring only to fodder which stalks were already noticeable. And he holds that one can perform an act of acquisition of an item that is not yet in existence. Rabbi, the Tanya we learned, The pasuk says, "You should not deliver a slave to his master." The pasuk is speaking about a person who acquires a slave, not to enslave him, but in order to free him. The Beis Din may not deliver the slave to his master, as the master has no right to enslave him. The Gemara says, "Hey chidam," what's the case? He says, if the master wrote to the slave in the Shtashikhr, when I purchase you, you're hereby acquired to yourself from now. In that case, the slave acquires himself from that moment, despite the fact that the buyer does not own him. This shows that Rabbi Yehuda Anasi maintains that a person can transfer an item that has not yet entered this world, as one can free a slave before acquiring him. What do you see that he holds due to enmity. Giving Kidushin to a married woman that will take effect after her husband dies can engage in enmity between the husband and the wife. Giving Kidushin to one's sister that depends on the death of the... Also, nevertheless, Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda maintain that one can be Mekadosh a woman who is currently forbidden to him. Let us also count Rebbe amongst those who maintain that a person can acquire those that by them. The same person. It's a person, if a woman stated a vow to her husband, I will not produce anything for you, including the work that she is obligated to do for him according to the terms of the marriage contract, as that is koinim, is forbidden like an offering. For her, the husband needn't nullify it. Why nullify it? Because Shema Tadiv Allah Yasim and Arayla, perhaps she will exceed the requiring amount of the work, do more for him than is fitting for him. Right? Stated with regard to this, my hands sanctified for the maker, and her hands, she's makdish her actual hands, and these hands exist in the world, therefore the vow takes effect. The person says, you're here by Mekadeshes to me on condition that I will speak to in your favor to the authorities. Help her address some legal matters. One second. Start again. Okay. And a person says, you are Mekadeshes to me on condition that I will speak to in your favor to the authorities to help to address some legal matters. Or on condition that I will act for you as a laborer. If he spoke to her favor in your favor to the authorities or acted for her labor, then Mekadeshes from Lav and Mekadeshes. Shagir says, and this applies if he gave her a shavar pruta at the time of the Kidushin, she's Mekadeshes via his recommendation to the authorities or via the work itself, as these are merely conditions appended to the Kidushin. Where it asks, and she's not Mekadeshes by the monetary value of the recommendation or actions. If a person says, if it was taught in a brayso that if one says to a woman, "You are hereby Mekadeshes to me by the money value you received when I had you ride on a donkey, or by the money value you received when I had you sit on a wagon donkey, or by the monetary value you received when I had you ride on a boat," she's not Mekadeshes, so she's already done the action, therefore owes the chayiv, and one cannot be Mekadesh with alva. But if monetary value you receive when I will have you ride on the donkey, or I'll have you sit on a wagon, and if you're going to say here too is referring to a case where he gave her a shavar prata, we're talking about the value. Furthermore, it was taught in a brayso, "Shave imi b'tzavta v'kadesh loch," sit together with me and I will be Mekadeshes to you. Schek l'fanai, or perform entertainment before me. Reked l'fanai, dance before me. Asa kedimei sazeh, perform work for me like this layer. Shamin, the Beis Din appraises the monetary value of the action. Yeshua shavar prata Mekadeshes, I'm not Mekadeshes. V'chitei machanami b'diyav l'shavar prata. Shamin k'asar. So much to do the shlakish malach shantana b'ras savar. And it's just a little bit safe. The Tana maintains that the obligation to pay a person's wages occurred only at the end of the period for which he was hired. The Tana done safe. The Tana of our mission maintains that the obligation to pay a wage is incurred continuously from the beginning of the period it was hired to its end. Since the chayiv accumulates throughout the duration of the services performed, by the time he has finished the work, she owes him the entire sum, and the chayiv cannot be used for Kidushin. The Gemara asks, our forces Rish Lakish established the mission according to the opinion that the obligation to pay a wage has occurred continuously from the beginning to the period it was hired to its end. with the Ayavla, and that is referring to a case where he gave her the value of the pruta. Why does he reject the possibility that the Mishnah is referring to one who did not give an extra pruta, instead he was Mekadosh with the value of the service he was performed, according to the opinion that the obligation to pay a person's wages incurred only at the end of the period which he was hired? Rabbi S Greenwald says that the Mishnah was difficult for Rish Lakish. Why say Manasseh was chayil? Rather, the Mishnah must be dealing with a case where he was already giving her the value of the pruta, so the value of the service cannot be the money for the Kidushin itself, but instead it serves as a later condition.